51st gene key. Initiative to initiation. Programming partner, 57th gene key. Codon ring, the ring of humanity. 10, 17, 21, 25, 38, 51. Physiology, gallbladder. Amino acid, arginine. The 51st shadow, agitation. The portal of fears. The 51st gene key and its spectrum of frequencies contains some startling secrets regarding human behavior, as well as leading you towards the process or experience referred to as awakening. One of the most recognizable human traits to emerge through our genetics is our innate human competitiveness. Until you reach the highest level of frequency in the 51st siddhi, human beings are driven to compete with each other. Depending on how you channel this energy, it can either lead to unity or it can lead to division. Together with its programming partner, the 57th shadow of unease, this 51st shadow of agitation creates enormous disturbance and insecurity within human beings. Until you can elevate your consciousness into and beyond the higher frequencies of the gift level, you will always feel this sense of agitation inside you at some level. The reason that the 51st shadow creates such a disturbance in the energy field of human beings is quite simply because life is beyond our control. Unforeseen events will occur in your life from time to time, and these events can radically change your destiny. At the shadow frequency, the perceived randomness of life creates a deep insecurity in human beings because of this underlying fear that something bad could happen to you at any moment. This insecurity is compounded through direct evidence as we witness it happening to the people around us. For example, in London, during the Blitz in the Second World War, bombs would drop at random throughout the night. Most streets in central London were hit at some time or other, and entire families were instantly killed, whilst neighboring properties often remained relatively unharmed. In life, the question of which house gets hit plagues all human beings. Because we see it happening to others, this generates the unconscious fear that it might happen to us next. Shocks are a part of all human life, but at the shadow level, where fear reigns, the possibility and fear of shock continually unnerves us. The hallmark of all shadow frequencies is a profound lack of trust in life itself, and trusting in life is neither an intellectual nor even an emotional issue. It is in fact purely physical. Trust is something that is either felt within the cells of your body or not. Without trust, human beings stay in a state of agitation. We tend to be jumpy, nervous, and stressed. We either shy away from life out of fear, or we rush at it out of rage or panic. Your frequency determines how you view shocks, as well as how you handle them physically and emotionally when they do come. At a higher frequency, shocks are like wormholes to a new and potentially higher dimension. Shock directly challenges the very bedrock of your reality and your attachment to that reality. In this sense, the true role of any shock is to chip away at your sense of separateness from life and release you from the false security of the shadow consciousness. The 51st shadow devotes all its energy into trying to stave off the inevitable. It lives in denial of the ultimate shock, the fact of physical death, and in denying death it actually throttles life. Only one who has fully embraced the certainty of death is truly alive. Without the perspective of death, life loses its true sense of value, which is precisely what desensitizes human beings. Given that the 51st gene key is also responsible for the human competitive spirit, we see humans fight only for themselves and their own benefit without any sense of higher purpose. The competitiveness of the 51st shadow is about needing to be first, not in order to better yourself, but to feel superior to others. The human competitive spirit can be a very ugly thing at the shadow frequency because it can so easily brush aside others in its relentless push towards the top. It literally views all others as a means to rise higher, and in that sense, it uses other people for the sole purpose of its own advancement. In this sense, superiority is a feeble attempt to allay the inevitable. All those who have risen to the top of the hierarchy throughout history are eventually humbled by death. The 51st gene key, as a genetic archetype, is rather special. It is unique in that it represents a portal. Where this portal leads depends entirely upon the frequency you program into your genetics. There is a terrific amount of energy within the agitated state of the 51st shadow. Without a sense of inner purpose or direction, this can be a dangerous gene key. Agitation never leaves you alone, but continually prompts you to do something in order to get some kind of reaction. It will do anything to release its restless electrical energy. This can lead to all kinds of reckless and foolish acts, done simply for the sake of releasing the agitation. The 51st shadow can drive people to do things that others would never dream of. This leads to a strange phenomenon that can occur to people strongly influenced by this shadow. They can actually experience a state of fearlessness. However, this fearlessness is not a true fearlessness based on trust. It occurs when the state of agitation becomes so strong that it wants to extinguish itself, and in doing so it drowns out the fear within the body. The 51st shadow impacts the collective through highly unusual and often dangerous individuals. Anyone strongly influenced by the 51st shadow is either in danger of falling into a deep state of depression or of becoming a liability in the world. Many of these people may have little or no respect for life, so they either lose all hope or they act out their sense of futility in some extreme way. These people are the agents of shock in the world, deepening the mass consciousness fear that nowhere and nothing is safe. The fear that at any moment something terrible may happen is further compounded by the mass media through its constant coverage of just such events. It is remarkable to see how just a few individuals living out the extreme of this shadow can exert such a huge influence over the rest of the world. As we have said, the 51st shadow is a portal, and at the shadow frequency, this portal leads you to perceive the world only through the lens of your fear. Repressive nature, cowardly. When refracted through an introverted nature, the 51st shadow manifests as a kind of cowardice. These are people who steadily lose hope concerning life, and instead of lashing out like the reactive nature, slowly shut down and turn inward. These can be highly depressive people, with little or no enthusiasm for anything in life. The cowardice here lies in the repression of a very powerful nature. These people simply allow fear to rule their life, even though they have the power within them to pull themselves out. The real fear is of facing the fear itself. Ironically, by facing the fear, it is shown to be an illusion. However, such natures rarely find the individual courage to break the illusion, preferring instead to wallow in a repetitive cycle of self-pity. To break out of this cycle of depression, these people have to wake up to the fact that only they can rescue themselves. Reactive nature, hostile. The extroverted version of this shadow manifests as hostility. This hostility is the result of the dangerous pairing of a fearless rage and a deep sense of futility. These natures bring outer shock into the world, obviously in varying degrees. At an emotional level, these people have no real sense of respect for human beings. They tend to be drawn to any sphere of society where competition is worshipped, from business to sports. They are generally loners with deep-seated emotional boundaries. They often throw themselves into highly dangerous or risky situations where they may even face death. With the reactive nature, the profound sense of agitation that underlies this 51st gene key projects itself onto others. Thus, these people also provoke hostility in others, but without any real agenda. They simply do it because they cannot help themselves and do not care. The only way for such a pattern to be broken is for these people to channel their agitation into some creative project that will ultimately lead to a feeling of fulfillment. The 51st gift, initiative, stirring good fortune. Whereas the portal through the 51st shadow leads to hell, the 51st gift leads to a place of great personal empowerment and genius. The 51st gift is engaged whenever the human competitive spirit is put into the service of creativity. Every time you have the courage to follow your own independent creative juices, you have stepped through the 51st portal of initiative. This 51st gift is a key place within the human genetic matrix because it contains the activation code for individual empowerment. To follow your initiative is to step off the beaten track and to follow the dictates of your own inner being. There is no safety net when you follow your own destiny in this way. It is a giant leap onto a path that no one else has ever traveled. The mass consciousness is both in awe and afraid of those who follow this path in life. The collective way is the way of security, but the way of the individual is mysterious and fraught with uncertainty. As we shall see, it is also the only path to true awakening. It is not possible for a human being to awaken without first stepping fully into their creative independence. Those who do step through this portal into the 51st gift are deliberately turning their backs on all who have come before them. They are closing the book on all previous teachings and wisdom and are going out to discover what their own individual truth is, rather than anyone else's. This is a mythic path, a path often seen as a journey into the underworld in which the traveler will confront many challenges and tests. It is also a path that eventually arrives home. It is a path of heart leading into the heart. Just as the 38th and 39th gifts are archetypes of the warrior, so too is the 51st gift. However, this is a different kind of warrior. This has nothing to do with fighting collective fears, and it has little to do with honor. This is the battle with your own fears, and unlike these other two gene keys, this battle does not involve a struggle. It involves a leap. The leap into the 51st gift is the leap into the higher self. It is the shock of awakening from one level of being into another. The 51st gift is the highest expression of the human competitive spirit. At this level, you no longer compete with others, but with yourself. Even in the field of competition, whether that be political, financial, or recreational, you use others as mirrors to reflect your own level of excellence rather than pushing them down so that you might rise higher. In sports, for example, the 51st gift will find its own innate genius and strength by realizing its difference from others. This 51st gift is about harnessing your difference from others rather than trying to beat someone else at their own game. When you are truly being yourself, you unlock the magical force of genius that belongs to you and no other. To take your own initiative is to disregard everything you have ever learned or heard. There is no other way than this towards true genius. This is a path through fear, and the fear cannot be sidestepped. The specific context in which the fear arises is the perfect and deepest fear for that person. Whatever your deepest fear is, you will meet it here in the 51st gift, and you will transcend it. The 51st gene key is a key component in the genetic family known as the Ring of Humanity. Creative initiative is the path of every human spirit. Every one of us must at some point in life leave the crowd and head off into the uncharted wilderness of our heart. This is the true path and destiny of humanity. The vitality and courage in initiative stirs powerful responses from the quantum field. Thus, the more you believe in yourself and act from this belief, the more life supports you. To overcome your own sense of unworthiness and step beyond competition is to embrace the magic of higher dimensions. Those who take the initiative engage the forces of good fortune and synchronicity. In this sense, the 51st gene key will always reward your perseverance when you trust in your own heart. It will shock you with good fortune. People with the gift of initiative are the first to do things in the world. Even though they may have followed others in their past, when it comes to the leap, they will always follow their own path. In this way, individuals throughout history stand upon each other's shoulders and keep the human spirit evolving. Just as the 51st shadow creates agents of low-frequency shock in the world, so the 51st gift creates agents of positive shock in the world. These people come to awaken the collective consciousness out of its fear-based modality. Wherever individuals are lost, the people of the 51st gift will challenge them to tread their own path. It is important to understand that people of the 51st gift are not leaders. They are initiators. They come to catalyze new processes among humanity, or they live lives that are so unique and courageous that others are inspired to do likewise. The 51st gift has a particularly important role to play in the world of commerce by providing the competitive drive within organizations. In large groups or organizations, the 64 gene keys each take on different genetic roles. The 51st gift operates through the entire culture of the business rather than at the level of individual achievement. The more individuals there are with this genetic activation, the more competitive the spirit of the company will be. Most people are confined to living out of its shadow frequency, which is more likely to make the company over-competitive and create a sense of collective agitation felt by all the employees and especially the management teams. However, as we can learn from the 64 gene keys, the secret is not really about quantity, but quality. Thus, a single person manifesting the 51st gift can turn around an entire organization through the collective morphogenetic field of that company. The presence of such a person in a pivotal position can propel the organization into a totally new level of functioning in which individuals are empowered rather than kept down and controlled. The 51st Siddhi, awakening, the thunder of your giving. The phenomenon of awakening has captivated human beings for millennia. We are entranced that certain people seem to go through experiences that permanently alter them and put them in touch with a reality that we cannot see but can still sense. Of course, there are many interpretations of the word awakening within the halls of spirituality. It may seem to many that there are grades and levels of awakening. Many of the new interpretations of awakening view consciousness as a ladder that can be ascended rung by rung. Even this work on the 64 gene keys presents the evolution of consciousness as a rising of energetic frequency through your genetics, resulting in changes in the operating system of your body and awareness. There is also a huge body of provisos at the spiritual level coming from the mouths of both the genuine teachers and the false prophets. To add yet another layer to the story, humanity is currently at one of the most potent crossroads within our genetic and spiritual evolution. At such times, the voices come thick and fast, the voices of doom and the voices of hope, each declaring their truth. The 51st Siddhi sweeps all these requirements and systems aside. It makes everything simple and clear. For the 51st Siddhi, there are only two states of consciousness, awake and asleep. Of course, from within the Siddhic state, this division into awake and asleep is simply a matter of rhetoric, but it also holds true on the material plane. Something occurs to a person before they enter a Siddhic state, something unpredictable and without cause, something momentous. No one can put into words what happens to someone as they enter a Siddhic state. There are things that must always remain a mystery, even to science. There may be sciences of awakening before awakening, but there are no sciences after awakening. Therein lies the paradox. The 51st Siddhi is beyond spiritual jargon and systems. It has a language of its own, and that language is simple and shocking. It says that until you are awake, you are asleep. There are no levels within awakening. To the 51st Siddhi, all ordering of consciousness is absurd. It is simply done by people who are asleep, grading the patterns of their sleep. What then is awakening, and how do you tell when someone is awake and when someone is not? These are the great questions of the sleeping world. If you were to ask someone who is awake these same questions, they would probably say that it doesn't matter, and that until you are awake, you will never know why it doesn't matter. Such things only matter to those who are not awake. The fact is that awakening does make you different. Not in terms of your deepest consciousness, but in terms of your physical genetic vehicle and its functioning. By the same token, you could argue that awakening might one day be genetically manipulated by science. In theory, this might even be possible. However, as long as human beings are asleep, they will not bother throwing their valuable resources into such spiritual aspirations. The lower frequencies are based on self-interest, and awakening does nothing in that direction. Added to this, awakening is such a delicate evolutionary process. It is not the result of individual effort, but is a spontaneous evolutionary leap made possible by wider evolutionary forces operating throughout the entire universe. In short, awakening is a mystery that prevents its own nature from being solved or replicated. From within our deep sleep, we are desperate to understand this phenomenon of awakening. However, in the language of the 51st Siddhi, it is a mystery that will not yield to pressure. We may wonder if there are signs that show a person is close to awakening, and we have certainly tried to create paths towards awakening. There are no signs. Awakening has happened to nice people and to nasty people. Nor are there paths, despite what even awakened beings have said or laid down for us. To be awake is a grand dilemma. No matter what you say, it will be misinterpreted, so in the end you simply say whatever you say and trust in the vibration underneath it. Awakening is also easy to fake. Anyone with a powerful aura can claim awakening, or even believe that they are awake. Mystical experience can also be mistaken for awakening. There are so many types of mystical encounters and visionary states that occur to human beings all the time, but awakening is something entirely different from all these. Many of the greatest mystical visionaries and even the great revelations or systems that come through them still do not touch the true field of awakening. true awakening simply sees through everything and has nothing whatsoever to do with behavior or experience. Neither does awakening come and go. When it comes, it stays forever. As you hear each of the 64 siddhis described within this book, you begin to have a good notion of how diverse the behavior patterns of awakening really are. The 51st siddhi is the ground beneath every one of these siddhis, and no one can attain these states without true awakening. In words, awakening is the permanent dissolving of the separate self and occurs through a physical mutation within the body. No amount of meditation or spiritual practice can bring about this mutation, even though they may or may not precede awakening. It is not possible to influence this mutation because it has nothing to do with your experience or behavior. This is the grandest spiritual illusion of them all. Human beings do not readily take no for an answer. We like to feel that we can do something. However, this is the one area where you cannot do anything other than be yourself. Awakening occurs to someone who is so much themselves that it simply has no choice but to occur. The irony here is that you cannot work at being yourself. It is simply an innate gift. You can see how the shadow of agitation bleeds through this gene key at the highest level. Even when you are awake, you can still see the spiritual agitation that your presence causes others. The fact is that the siddhic state is a leap out of all levels, and it is a leap into the void. Nothing can prepare you for that leap, and nothing definitive precedes the leap. Neither is this leap a leap that you take. It is more as though the leap takes you. The 51st siddhi contains many other secrets. Among them are the secrets of initiation. The universe we inhabit is constantly initiating all forms. The world of form is constantly impacting into itself. Atoms collide with atoms. Asteroids collide with planets. Humans collide with each other in relationships. It is a game of penetration in which everything is trying to penetrate everything else. Every penetration is, in a sense, a shock and results in a mutation or transformation of some kind. Death itself is the transformation of one form back into its constituent forms. Before awakening, forms are still forms, so we are always at risk of some kind of impact or shock. Such shocks are really initiations in which the boundaries of your world are shaken. After awakening, all forms are experienced as interpenetrating each other, so there are no longer any shocks or impact. There is no localization of awareness in the body in order for a shock to take place. Initiation always demands an environment, and awakening brings an end to the very concept of environment. As we have seen, there is a great deal of confusion concerning the concept of awakening. It is a permanent mutation at a physical level, resulting in a fundamental change in the perceptive apparatus in the body. The ancient Chinese represented this 51st hexagram through the symbol of thunder, and it really does take us by surprise. Awakening is always a surprise. It comes once and only once, and after it has come, it stays forever. Once you are awake, you cannot go back to sleep. The thunder within this gene key is the thunder of life itself. It is the thunder of your giving. The awakened one becomes a vessel that knows only how to give of itself, there being no friction preventing life from flowing through. This giving is love, but it may or may not manifest as affectionate love. In truth, it is cosmic, universal love. There is one final thing to say about the 51st siddhi that is of great import at this time in our evolution. Thus far, we have only considered the 51st siddhi at an individual level, but it also operates at a far wider level. As an aspect of the ring of humanity, this gene key ensures that one day all of humanity will awaken. Indeed, in the times to come, this city will begin to awaken entire gene pools. There will come a time in which relationships will awaken, then families, then entire communities, until finally the thunder will be heard throughout the human genome. At this stage, humanity itself will awaken as an individual cosmic being and will see its own true nature. As with individual awakening, this is not a gradual phenomenon, even though it may appear so. It is a sudden, unexpected shock in awareness that is preceded by mutative chain reaction through your cells and DNA. When humanity awakens, it will move beyond time. That single moment, when humanity opens its true eyes for the first time, will be the greatest single event in the history of awareness itself.